Welcome to the Modern Medicine Movement Podcast. Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. Super pumped, super grateful. Let's go. Welcome. So pumped, guys. Happy 2022. 2022. So exciting. We're here. We made it. Woohoo! Best year ever on tap. I'm so pumped. I'm so grateful. So happy to be here with you guys. It's just a pleasure. Always a blessing. Any day I get to record and share and just reach out to you guys is amazing. Another day of life, another year of life, another month. It's all gravy at this point. It's awesome. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share with you. I hope you had an amazing holiday season with Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, all of the things. It's just been incredible for me to be with family during this time. Kind of a funky last 6 months or so. Many of you guys know have some family illness going on right now, and lately able to spend time with those I love has just been cherished time. So family is everything for me, and so grateful that I've had some opportunities to spend time with family. So hope you guys got to spend time with those you love and care about recently. We're actually going to talk a little bit about some of that connection today and the power of connection and how that can just be one of the biggest helps and supports and positive things in life, and how it can combat the things that we face on a day-to-day basis with stress levels increasing, with anxiety, with all of the things that the pandemic has kind of escalated. We're going to get into it today. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to share that with you. Before I do that, I just want to thank those that have jumped on over there to Apple Podcasts. That's sort of my favorite place to get reviews, though I will read any review, any place, be it Spotify, Google, Stitcher, whatever. The podcast is available there, but Apple Podcasts is cool because it just helps get the word out. It just helps get the exposure so people can find us at the Modern Medicine Movement, because we are changing lives here, and I just am so grateful. I got a note from a gal who, oh my gosh, touched my heart. She says, thank you from the bottom of my heart for this podcast. You may have just saved my life with your expertise and knowledge on this preventable disease. You explained it so well in a way that made sense and cleared up the confused mess I was in. I took a ton of notes and can't wait to implement and reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Thank you, this grace-filled life, for writing that review. That is why I do this. And she may be able to tell you that if you have a question, you have something you want to hear about, a burning desire to hear about some specific health topic, don't be afraid to ask, because in her case, she asked and I answered and I delivered, and I did a whole entire podcast on that issue of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is unfortunately now in the Western world affecting 1 out of 3 of us. Could that be you? So if you don't know if you have it or not, you better go back and re-listen or listen to that podcast, because I'll talk all about it, about how you can find out if you have it with some blood tests and things, and more importantly, what the heck you can do about it. So anyway, thanks in advance for your reviews. I will pick a winner here. Actually, now that we're in the new year, this is the prime time to grab my course, which is available right now, guys, at mastermind.com. Will soon be available also on my website, modernmedicinemovement.com. You're going to be able to grab that just amazing health course, as well as a bunch of other courses I designed specifically to help you with the things that I think will move the needle for you in your life. So if you want to know all about what's coming down the pike, come jump on over to modernmedicinemovement.com, scroll about halfway down and click on the link to join the free newsletter. This newsletter will reach you once a week, each and every Thursday, with Thursdays to Thrive with Dr. Thomas. Can't wait to have you guys there and experiencing this free, helpful newsletter every week. You can get that. Just sign up for it there at modernmedicinemovement.com. You'll also be the first to know about upcoming events and courses and My book is coming out. And I've settled on a title, and I hope you guys have heard about it. It's going to be coming out later this year. It's called Preventable. Preventable. It's so amazing because it will talk about all the things that are yet achievable, simple, and doable that will move the needle in your life to prevent the most common illnesses that not only cause mortality, but morbidity and issues in our lives, how we can naturally and quite simply overcome these health issues through 5 primordial, important, just foundational steps, which I will explain in the book. So check it out. Hop on over there to my newsletter. You'll be the first to know when it gets released. It is in the editing phase and getting closer and closer every day. So super pumped about my upcoming book entitled Preventable! Exclamation point. So grateful for that. Grateful for you guys, and grateful that I'll get to meet a few of you, hopefully many of you. Next week, I will be live in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Align Ambition event that my wife Brooke has put together with just an amazing cast of just super influential, motivational, and inspiring speakers such as the one and only Jasmine Starr, Heidi Powell, Patrice Washington, Tiffany Peterson, Amber Lee Lago. My wife Brooke, of course, will be just delivering big time, and I'll be there as well as the Dave Hollis that you guys have heard of, who is just a remarkable human, overcome a lot, written a recent book that he'll probably share a little bit about. That's just, it's incredible. Love that guy and his work. He's doing great work, as well as all the others, including my beautiful wife. We will be there. Hopefully we can meet you. So if you have not grabbed your ticket, there are a couple of seats left. Yes, there is limited seating. We are taking every precaution to be able to share with you live an experience that will be foundational, beneficial, but also healthful, and taking into consideration all the issues going on currently so that we can stay healthy, be healthy, and yet enjoy one another's presence. So limited seats available. Please jump on over there, AlignEventsLive.com, and grab your ticket today. If you grab an upgraded premier ticket, you'll get all kinds of amazing stuff, including additional lunches and dinners with the crew, including my wife Brooke and a couple other the speakers to share. You'll have an amazing dinner out at an amazing location where you'll be able to feast on some just foundational, amazing, just natural foods, as well as the company of my wife and some others that will just be able to pour into you. So get that premier ticket, and you will basically get a second ticket next to free. I think the second ticket's only $50. So hop on over there, Align Events Live, or drop me a message at Modern Medicine Movement Podcast at Gmail, or at Aloha Surf Doc, or at Modern Medicine Movement. Can't wait to see you there. Without further ado, I'm pumped for this episode because, gosh, it is one of those things that we are facing each and every day. So I hope that you'll be able to take this message not only to heart, but to practice, because it is a time where this is invaluable. Probably more powerful than ever, because according to the American Psychological Association, or APA, this is a national emergency, and that is one of stress and mental challenges, mental health, mental illness, anxiety, depression, all of these things, the stress that's been upon each and every one of us recently during the pandemic has just been exploding through the roof numbers. It's nearly 100% of us have experienced some of this. So I am here to share with you some powerful tools to be able to combat and optimize this stress that unavoidably will affect each and every one of us at some moment in the next several years. So Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. I'm pumped to share this with you. I wanted to start off with a landmark study that has really changed the way I view this topic. And the original work on this was in 1998, where they looked at groups of people, and not only whether or not they had stress, they basically asked them to report if they had no stress, if they had mild stress, or if they had elevated or severe stress. And then the clincher was not just to report if they had stress and how much, but what became super important was how they viewed or interpreted or what meaning they gave this stress, because that was the clincher in how this affected their lives. And what they did was they took this initial sort of preliminary study and then they applied it to literally millions of people. The first one was 185,983 participants. And then they extrapolated those numbers with a big database and were able to basically show that at that point in time, which was 2012, about 80% of us underwent a significant stress each and every year. Nowadays, that number is approaching 100. 100% of us nearly are experiencing some significant stress in these recent years. And so what's cool is that doesn't have to be the thing that drags you down or that causes you poor health. Or in this study, they looked at mortality or the likelihood of death. And what they showed was that it wasn't just the folks who had significant stress, because if you take, for example, all those that rated, mild, moderate, severe stress, those that had severe stress, not all of them had adverse health outcomes or increased mortality or died younger. Only the group of those that had the severe stress and reported that this stress was bad for them. They believed stress was bad. Stress was something that was going to cause them problems, poor health, maybe, more disease, more illness, more issues. They believed it was bad for them. And guess what? It was. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. But those that rated their stress also as a high level, extreme amounts of stress, and did not believe that it was bad for them, they had no negative health benefits, no increased mortality. In fact, for that group, it was protective, which was significantly different to that other group that believed it was bad for them. In fact, those that believed stress was bad had a 43% higher incidence of dying. 43% higher incidence of dying if you believe that stress is bad for you. On the other hand, if you take the approach that stress can be growth promoting, it can be a challenge, it can be something to overcome where you're going to come out the other side even better than before, that actually has a positive health benefit. It actually gives you more time, more years of life, more longevity, and increased your lifespan and decreased your mortality. So it was all in the meaning. And what was so significant is that in this study period, they determined that just because you had this negative belief, or may have had this negative belief about stress, that it was bad for you, they estimated that nearly 182,000 people, or 20,231 deaths per year, could be attached to this group that believed that stress was bad for them. In excess of 20,000 deaths per year in addition. That would rank it in the top 15 causes of death. Just stress causing death. That's a travesty. And this was 2012. Think about 2021, 2022 upcoming. I would think these numbers would be even worse because of the significant increased amount and not only the frequency, but the duration of all the stressors we are being exposed to with the pandemic and everything in between. And so the powerful concept here is that at the end of the day, it does not have to be a self-fulfilling prophecy with respect to this adversity. We don't have to die younger. We don't have to have health issues. We don't have to succumb. We can actually turn that on its head, and we can make stress empowering, invigorating. It can be a growth. It can be a challenge. It can be just a promoting, growth promoting experience where we come out the other side better than before, healthier than ever before. Whatever it is, we can come out not only unscathed, but stronger, right? Shout out to Kelly Clarkson, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, her number one hit from a few years ago. And that can be the deal with stress. So the meaning or the belief that we attach to our stress is significant and literally can be a matter of life and death. So let's get into it a little bit. What the heck is going on here? How does this work? What is this negative sort of sympathetic, stress that we've been told, to either avoid or somehow be able to, deal with? I just hate that. Deal with, like, how about we learn to optimize this stress, right? Not just deal with it. Let's come out on the other side even better. And so that's what I'd love to focus on with respect to stress, how we can optimize it in our lives, because why not? We have the opportunity. We have the capability. We are made for this. And so historically speaking, stress has been, I think, something that connotes a negative type of meaning to many of us, right? It's that kind of sympathetic nervous system fight or flight response that, evolutionarily or what have you, we were sort of designed to, get amped up to run away from that predator, that tiger, that whatever it was, the enemy. We had to get amped up. We had to pump up our blood pressure, our heart rate, open our eyes wide open, shunt all the blood to the vital organs, to our muscles, and away, from our intestines, our gut. That's sort of the sympathetic response, is that activating, energizing, get up and go, get up and run, right? It's the it's the system, the fight or flight that gets activated. In the short term, if we're running from a lion or a predator or what have you, that's a good thing because we get that blood flowing to our muscles, to our heart, and away from our digestive system that actually takes quite a bit of energy, because we don't want to waste any energy if we're running from a predator. We're going to shunt all those muscles to our legs and our arms and our eyes and our heart, and, be able to have eyes wide open and, be able to get away from any threat. The problem is that this gets overactivated in our lives, especially now, where everything is sort of, heaven forbid the dictum, hellfire and brimstone, everything is sort of this, phenomenon where in the news and the media, social media, whatever, this dictum that what bleeds, leads to the next story. It's like everything is sensationalized and in a negative way. It's like, oh my gosh, we're so fearful. There's just fear on every front. And it triggers us. And it doesn't have to. We actually can respond differently. We're going to learn about that today. So this classic response, this sympathetic fight or flight, was designed to save our life from a predator, right? But it wasn't designed to be activated nearly 24/7 each and every day through all of the, news media and social media and all these things that are jumping out at us, telling us to be afraid, be scared, watch out, you may die, this may happen, whatever it is. Like all that stress and the triggering that connotes this fear and anxiety, like that is not productive, but it's not healthful either. It doesn't help us. We're not needing to be in that activated run away from the predator tiger, state each and every moment. Because if we do, what happens? Well, our sympathetic nervous system pumps up, the hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all these things are like cranked up to the max all day long. And guess what? That's bad for our health. It's okay if it's pumped up for, a minute here or there if we're running from a predator, but if we're pumping that up each and every day, all day long, that system ain't going to work well in the future. It's that fatigue, that burnout. Have you guys ever heard of that term, adrenal fatigue? Like, it's a real thing. It's been shown that this system, if activated repeatedly, will not serve us well when we need it. We get burned out. Our so-called adrenal glands, where the cortisol is released from, get burned out. And then we can't mount this response when we need it. So we need to learn how to selectively, get charged up and not be triggered by all these things that often will trigger us. And beyond that, not only, our choice of the matter, we're going to talk about sort of the anti-stress hormone, which is my favorite to talk about because it is literally the antithesis or the opposite of this cortisol and adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine. It's the opposite of that. And instead of tightening up our blood vessels and our sphincters, it relaxes them, which also can improve blood flow. You guys ever heard of that so-called miracle drug, sildenafil? You're like, what the heck, sildenafil? Well, the dudes out there might know what I'm talking about. That's Viagra. Well, there are many of these type of medications that dilate and relax blood vessels to improve blood flow. And so that can be done through, no, not sildenafil, Viagra. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the happy hormone, otherwise known as oxytocin. Oxytocin can be that miracle drug, that miracle anti-stress hormone, and you can learn how to release it in your own body naturally. You can do it. Men and women both have that amazing anti-stress hormone, the oxytocin. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. Firstly, I just want to share with you how the heck we can change this negative sympathetic stress into something more positive. Let me go back in time a little bit. 25 years ago, was in medical school, and each and every Monday, we had just major exams. And like, how cruel, right? Like, literally, each and every Monday, we had a major biochemistry exam or anatomy exam, whatever it was. And so it just screwed up our weekend, right? It was like kind of stressful, like, holy crap, all weekend long, you have this thing hanging over your head. You got this major midterm or final style exam each and every Monday. And just the thought of that kind of amped you up, got your heart racing, got you a little nerve racked or whatever. And so, although in those days, 25 years ago, this whole notion of oxytocin and its anti-stress response and, the meaning that we attribute to stress, none of this stuff was really that well studied. Like I mentioned, that first study that came out in this regard was 1998, which, so that was when I was in medical school, was in 1998. And so there wasn't a lot known about this. This was a brand new thing. But what I learned was that the attitude with which I went into that Monday morning exam was everything. So I prepared, I studied a bunch of the weekend, Friday evening, all day Saturday. I usually took a break Sunday because I just love having one day a week where I can kind of drop all the cares of the world and just focus on my family, on my relationship with them, with God, my higher power, whatever that is for you guys. Just taking a moment, having some gray space, white space, one day a week is profound. And so I typically would do that on a Sunday with my family. And I didn't do a lot of studying on Sunday. And most people would be like, oh my gosh, how could you take a test Monday morning? Well, what I did was I got up at about 4:30 or 5 a.m. and I reviewed everything that I studied, throughout the weeks prior and Friday evening and all day Saturday. I reviewed all that stuff Monday morning. And so I was ready. I was pumped. And I'd go into that exam, even though it was just a crazy sterile, environment where literally you had to drop, everything at the door, your backpacks, in those days, we didn't really have cell phones. That was like the pre-cell phone era. In fact, pagers were just kind of a new thing, and that's how we communicated with one another in the hospital setting. We got pages. So shout out to all you guys who can remember what a pager was and how that worked, and, turning the numbers upside down and writing messages to one another through a pager. Like, that's what we used for communication in those days, way before the cell phone and the smartphone and all of that. But we left all that at the door. They had video cameras on us. We literally were just, it was like high security situation. We'd go through this exam door and literally drop everything at the door in a cubby. They kind of searched you over, made sure you didn't have anything, and checked your hands, made sure you didn't have any writing on your hands, all this kind of nonsense. And then we went into this exam, and it was a little stressful. But what I decided to do at the outset of each and every exam is I'd sit down, I'd close my eyes for a moment, and I'd go, you know what? I crushed this study. Like, I studied this stuff so hard. I'm going to just show these, exam makers, the test makers, I'm going to just show them I am going to crush this exam. I'm going to get the highest score that's ever happened in the history of this exam. And I just went in with this super pumped, sort of positive and challenge mindset where this, big stressor, this midterm or final exam, whatever, that was stressing me and all my colleagues out, I went into it like with this attitude that I'm going to show these guys, I'm going to show them. I'm pumped. I'm ready. And I would just kind of I would almost laugh before I started the exam. I just kind of chuckle to myself and say, there's no big deal. I got this. I've been through this information dozens of times, over the last few weeks and maybe last several hours, since 4 a.m. or whatever, and then all weekend long or earlier part of the weekend. And I'm ready for this. And I just went into it with that, I'm going to crush this, probably the same way that Shaun White, shout out to Shaun White, the, I think, best, performance snowboarder of all times, goes into each and every, not only X Games and Olympic heat, but, I think every time that guy charges those massive half pipe airs, he's in his mind going, I got this. I've practiced this thousands of times. He goes into it smiling, and he's got his music going on and his headphones or earbuds or whatever. And he's pumped. He's visualizing he's going to make this perfect corked out, I don't know, 1080 or whatever he's doing. And he goes into it with a smile and just pumped and with that visualization. And that's what I did back in the day, This was 25 years ago. I didn't know anything about this challenge response, this growth response. All I knew about was the sympathetic response because that's all I was taught. But I knew that there was a different way, that there was a better way. And what I found is when I went at it with this approach, this not only mindset, but just future-oriented, kind of seeing the future in the sense that I knew I was going to crush this exam. I studied for it. I was ready for it. I was pumped. There was nothing to fear. I'd been there. Same with Shaun White. When he does his Olympic deal, he's done that maneuver probably thousands of times. What the heck would he be afraid of, And so he goes in there and he crushes it. Another gold medal, cha-ching, right? And that's how I went into these exams, and it just was a game changer for me. So the meaning that I gave that apparently stressful event was one of a challenge that I was going to show those test makers that I knew this stuff and I was going to crush it. And it happened. So it was something I learned early on, 25 years ago or more, that we could prepare for stressful events in such a way. And we could choose our response ahead of time, because we can't often choose the circumstance. As I mentioned, the American Psychological Association has declared that stress is going to happen to each and every one of us almost 100% of the time, in each and every given year, starting with the last 2 years of the pandemic. Instead of 80 some odd percent of us will experience a stressful event, it's upwards of 90+% of us will have a stressful event each and every year. So it's coming. It's going to be here, but we can choose even now how we're going to respond to that. We can choose. We have that choice. Are we going to get pumped and go, yeah, I can crush this. I'm going to show what's up to these, whatever, to this situation, this circumstance. I'm going to just go into it, all hands on deck. I'm ready. I am pumped. All pistons firing. I am ready for this. Are we going to go into it like that? Or are we going to be oh my gosh, this is going to, this is going to crush me. This can't happen. This is going to kill me. I just can't. No, we get to pick. We could do that classic, during the headlights, or the run and hide, the fight or flight, or we could just get a little oxytocin, uptick and just smile and go, we've got this. Because if we is what we go forward with, the community, the camaraderie, if we tackle these stresses and problems together, that's I don't want to say steroids because I just mentioned steroids were a bad thing, but it's kind of like the expression, I'll just say the expression of, how to just crush stress, but on steroids is get a partner, get a friend, get a community to overcome these challenges together. We is better than me, and we are better together. You guys have heard of the mantra of the team approach. Together, everyone achieves more. I don't know who came up with that, but I've heard that for years and years. As a team, as a group, as a community, we can just crush any obstacle that comes in our path. And that is actually one of the things that really gets oxytocin going, is that community, that connection. So I want to talk a little bit about that, which there was a study done and reported in the Journal of Personality and Social Physiology and Psychology in 2012 that used the data from this Ohio longitudinal study of aging, or the OLSAR. And this was actually kind of a cool study because they followed 660 individuals. That's a pretty decent number. They were aged 50 or older. So that's me pretty soon here. And they followed them for an average of about 23 years. And what they found, this was earth-shattering, because in the year 2002, this was unheard of to report such a thing. So what they did was they looked at those, who died younger, those with health conditions, and they looked back and found what the factors were, that were associated with this. And so this actually kind of hurts, a little bit in the medical profession, because we, try to encourage each and every one of you and our patients each and every day to live healthy, to quit smoking, to watch your, diet and try to incorporate movement or exercise and all these things. And those kind of, medical advice type things that we would give people, like stop smoking, blah, 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 it only increased people's lifespan by like 4.5 or 5 years. That's it. Like, it wasn't a lot. But there was one sort of superpower, secret sauce, that increased lifespan by 7.5 years. And you know what that was? It didn't involve any medication. It didn't involve any supplement. It didn't involve any particular medical, device or practice. You know what it was? It was those that had a positive outlook and perception on aging, on average, live 7.5 years longer. Just having a positive outlook, looking forward to your future instead of going, oh, I'm getting old, life sucks. You're like 30 years old. Like, this is how I was in my 30s. I'm like, I don't feel as good as I did in my teens and 20s. Like, I feel like I'm falling apart. Well, guess what? If you believe that, that's what you feel, and you feel cruddy, and you just don't feel like you have the energy. You think your life's going downhill. Guys, I'm approaching 50, and I feel like I'm just going up and up. Like, I have the energy I did as a teenager. I have the stamina, the just vitality. Like, I'm pumped about the future. I think about my kids. They're growing up. They're just getting to be such cool little individuals with their own personalities and their own interests, and it just excites me. It's easy to get bummed with, oh my gosh, look what's happening in the world. I can't believe my kids have to live through this. I can't believe. It's easy to get in that mindset, but drop it. Or in the famous words of somebody many years ago that told me, just stop it. Stop it. Stop that negative self-talk, whatever you call that stuff. Just stop it. Because the future can be bright. It can be. And you get to decide that. So in this study, 660 individuals followed for over 23 years. Just that simple act of being positive about your future, being excited, increased your life by 7.5 years. Better than any significant medical teaching intervention, whatever. It's crazy. And then there's a different study. I love this one. I just have to share it because I love this action. But it studied all the different movement, exercises out there, running, swimming, jogging, all the common ones. And tennis was one, and all these things. And they looked at all these things, bike riding, which one of those was the most healthful? Which one promoted most health and longevity? And guess which one it was? This is crazy. It was Dr. Daniel Amen's famous, right? The racket sports. It was actually tennis. Tennis improved lifespan by up to 7 years. So have a positive outlook, play tennis. There you go. 15 years of amazing, high-quality life. Because those that I've met through the years that are into their 70s, 80s, 90s, still active playing tennis or ping pong, or like my grandfather played the piano until he was darn near 95. Like, that just kept him going. So it's not too late. If you don't play tennis, or you don't play ping pong, table tennis, or you don't play an instrument, like, you can learn that at any time. I love seeing people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s learning a new hobby, a new sport, there's a skier that was crazy. Literally just met this past week, and he was well into his 90s, and he mentioned that he had just started skiing. I think it was like less than 5 years ago. It was like, what? It was crazy. And he was like swinging his feet, you know, and just like so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, how's that even possible? It's all right here, guys, right in our mind. So what's going on there? All right. So not only is it the perception and the meaning that we give things, but it is how we interact with others. The power of community is real. A study reported in the British Medical Journal by Rosengreen and colleagues studied this aspect of community and connection. And they followed over 1,000 people, also age 50 and more, and found that those that experienced a stressful life event, such as loss of a job, financial trouble, having to move homes, being involved in a lawsuit, just all these significantly stressful events, that many of them would die prematurely if they did not have any significant social support. In fact, in the group that didn't have much at all, with respect to people they could lean on, family, friends, or social support, they died a significant amount sooner. But those that underwent the same stressful challenges and they had good social support, be it friends or family, it didn't matter if it was friends or family, but some tight social connection, they actually had no evidence, zero evidence of a mortality effect from these significant life stressors. The emotional support, the connection was protective. This is the BMJ, the British Medical Journal, over 1,000 people. This is like hardcore, amazing stuff here, guys, the connection. And so what happens? How does this happen? So this happy hormone I mentioned called oxytocin gets released with connection, with not only a hug, a smile, even petting of our favorite canine or feline friends. If you have a pet, dog, cat, whatever, and you spend time with them, that can increase your connection, and your oxytocin will surge. It'll go up, and it's like this perfect anti-stress hormone. It's basically the opposite of all that nasty cortisol promoting stuff. It actually lowers blood pressure. It increases blood flow. It increases relaxation. In fact, it's been so powerful that they are studying it right now in a potential treatment for lots of stressful disorders like anxiety, depression, PTSD. Like they are giving people additional oxytocin, and it's helping. So I'm not saying that I'm, promoting that we all go and get our oxytocin injection. We can actually learn to trigger this naturally. And that is done through connection. So what an earth-shattering statement here. This anti-stress hormone, oxytocin, can cancel out all these negative effects of the classic sympathetic fight or flight response. And it can be done through connection. So not only is it the power of accountability and camaraderie, like my wife loves to go to these morning, exercise classes. Her favorite these days is Orange Theory. She goes and she just, pumps it up, and she tries to get all these 50 plus, splat points, whatever. That's just showing your heart rate is responding to exercise and whatever. And she's going off in these classes, and she loves that positive competition and camaraderie and, running around, jumping, doing the weight floor, doing the, the water rowers and all this stuff, just like at full energy. When you're looking next to your partner, you're like, I'm going to outdo them. I'm going to crush this. And they're going, I'm going to crush you. And like the community there, it's amazing. They just push each other. And not only are they increasing their exercise performance, but also releasing oxytocin, this anti-stress hormone. It's an amazing thing. And it basically counteracts all those negative effects of cortisol. It is not only decreasing blood pressure, but it improves the blood flow. It stimulates your response to stress in a positive way. It promotes growth. It promotes healing. It is what allows us to be resilient. It's amazing. It's being used, like I said, for help with disorders and illnesses like PTSD, anxiety, stress, and it's because it is so powerful. And this can be promoted through connection, virtual or in person, the connection. Even better in person, but virtual has been shown to work as well. So having connection, having support family, friends, or other colleagues going through stressful events together, leaning on one another. We are better together. Not only because I said so, but because the data shows this. So I love it. So next time you feel something super stressful occurring, just remember, hey, take a deep breath. That's also one of these super helpful, encouraging, and powerful techniques. Breathing, and I don't even have time to get into in this podcast. I actually did a whole course on stress and stress optimization, including some sections on breathing. Go over and check out Wim Hof. He's a maestro at the breathing, but that can also pump up your anti-stress hormones and get you resilient. The breath, the power of breath is amazing. So take a deep breath, step back, grab some community, some support, and go through it together. Help and support one another, and you will come out the other side better, stronger, faster than ever before. Remember that show, The $1 Million Man and Woman, like Steve Austin? Like better than before, better, stronger, faster. That's how we're going to come out of this. So love you guys. Oh my gosh, what a topic. It's front and center, just one of those things that we're being exposed to each and every day. And it doesn't have to be negative. It can be growth promoting. It can be powerful. It can be exhilarating. Just remember that first time you went on a roller coaster and loved it. If you did love it, that can be the thing. You can get excited. You can be like Shaun White and be like, I'm going to just crush this 1080, corked out, double backflip, whatever, like with a rotation. You're going to go out and crush it. And you can, and you will. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. The power of resilience and optimization of stress, which can be done through mindset, through community, through breathing, and that wonderful anti-stress hormone, oxytocin. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, please share it out, share it on social media, drop me a review at Apple Podcasts. Love you guys so much. Can't wait to see you hopefully next week in Scottsdale, Arizona. Jump on over there now. Align Events Live, guys. Can't wait to see you there. Love, love, love you. Thank you so much for listening. It's just, love you guys. Amazing. Until then, a big aloha.